Want toned abs? That lean-looking six-pack? Then you'll want to avoid these ab training mistakes. And yes, I want to discuss the mistakes we make when it comes to our ab training routine. Because while abs are revealed by what we do in the kitchen, our training can play a huge role in not only the speed, but the quality of our results. And too often, our core work is an afterthought in our programming. A few ab moves strung randomly together done over the course of a week. Or some Googled best core moves we do till they burn and our abs feel destroyed. That's why in this video, I wanted to share 5 common ab training mistakes I see people making and how to avoid them. Because I want you to be able to build a killer ab training routine. Mistake number 1, doing only big heavy lifts to work your core. Yes, those big heavy compound lifts do strengthen your core, but those moves alone aren't enough because your core is truly only being worked in one way during these moves, and it's to brace. When really our abs and all the muscles of our core have so many different functions we should be addressing in our training. By including focused core work and isolation exercises for different muscles of your core, not only can you create better muscle hypertrophy for more defined abs, but you can truly strengthen any weak links. The stronger your weakest link, the more you can lift. And the more you can lift, the more muscle you can build, which will only further improve your body composition results. Win-win. Many of us even do this already with other areas. We include leg extensions to further strengthen our quads after lunges or squats. We do bicep curls after back exercises to further target our arms. The same thing needs to be done for our abs. So stop just focusing on compound moves. Include isolation work for your abs and core and address all of the functions these muscles perform, from spinal flexion and lateral flexion to twisting and even anti-extension and flexion. Yes, this means doing things like crunches, leg raises, and Russian twists, the things so often demonized as not being functional. But strengthening movements that those muscles of our core are actually meant to perform is essential, especially if we want a functionally strong core and to see definition as well. Which actually brings me to mistake number 2, fearing moves because you've heard they're bad. I know I ruffled some feathers when I mentioned crunches and Russian twists already, because over the last few years, these have gathered more and more hate. And 100%, no move is right for every person. But just because you have an injury or aren't able to control an exercise doesn't make it not right or dangerous for somebody else. I can also tell you, too often it wasn't the move that caused a problem, even if you got hurt during it. It was an improper recruitment pattern or us doing a move we hadn't fully earned that often leads to the issue. And often the move we get injured on is simply the straw that broke the camel's back. And overload has already been occurring even though we don't realize it. And moves like crunches and Russian twists can actually be amazing exercises to target our abs and obliques and build that definition because of how isolated their focus is. Because they isolate those muscle groups so well, they can help us learn to engage and activate the muscles to protect our spine. Learning to control that proper spinal flexion and rotation is key to avoiding aches and pains. So instead of demonizing those isolation movements, we need to include them more. And that focused activation of your core will help you also improve your definition. The more stubborn an area, the more we want to isolate it and hone in on it. And we want to do this with all the functions that the muscle performs. Add more crunch variations where you can really feel your abs working in isolation. Include moves that work on lateral flexion to target your obliques, like plank hip dips or even the often hated teapots. Learn to control those movement patterns as you focus on isolating those muscles to work so you can have not only a sexy looking core, but a strong one. And then as you include these moves, realize that you have to progress them if you want to build that definition and keep challenging your core. Mistake number 3 is that we don't create progression in our core work. If you keep including the same few ab exercises and you're never making them more challenging, even though they still feel like they burn, you're not going to keep getting better and better results. You need to find ways to progress those basic exercises. Whether you add resistance, change tempos, change up the range of motion, adjust training volume, or even simply tweak the exact postures or positioning for a move, you need to progress things as you go. It's not good enough that it just feels hard. You need to advance the exercise over time where you're not forcing the muscle to build back stronger. So if you've been doing the basic crunch, try holding a dumbbell to add resistance, or increase the range of motion by doing it over Bosu. Or if you've been doing hanging knees to elbows, try toes to bar, or just the pelvic tilt to change the range of motion and exact body positioning. If you're shooting for 10 to 15 reps and can only do 10 one week, shoot for 11 or 12 the next. Even trying just a slightly different variation of the same basic movement can be progression through the same but different. But focus on trying to make the move harder over the weeks to build that definition. Don't just go through the motions doing the same moves day after day after day, which is part of the 4th mistake I often see people making, not including diversity in their routine. We can not only create progression through the same but different, but little tweaks to a move can actually impact how they benefit you. When we include a diversity of exercises, we can address all the different functions the muscles of our core have. It's why it's key we don't only work our core by using it to brace for big compound lifts like the deadlift or squat. We also need to include moves that work on spinal flexion, rotation, and lateral flexion, not to mention even strengthen muscles to avoid unwanted extension, flexion, or rotation. We want to both include exercises exercises that help us power movement, but also prevent it. And then not only do we want to use a diversity of movements to address all of the actions the muscles perform, we want to use different moves to target muscles to different extents. Through using a variety of exercises, you can target different aspects of your abs to different extents. While we don't have a lower ab muscle, you can target the lower portion of your rectus abdominis to a greater extent through long lever plank variations and lower body crunches instead of doing the traditional crunch. Studies have shown that slight changes to our postures and position can elicit better activation of different aspects of the muscle. This can help us make sure we're truly getting the fully defined six-pack we want. But just make sure whatever moves you include, you feel the correct muscles working. This is where mistake number 5 comes into play, letting other muscles compensate. When you do an ab exercise, ask yourself, what do I feel working? Because whatever you feel working is actually getting the benefit of that exercise. If you feel your hip flexors or your lower back taking over, instead of your abs doing the work, those other muscles are therefore getting the benefit of the move. This is often not only what leads to injury and overload and makes us demonize the movement, but it doesn't allow us to see all the benefits of our hard work paying off in the ab definition that we want. If you don't feel your abs or obliques working during movement like they should be, regress to progress. Maybe you need to modify a movement, reducing the resistance or strain on the muscle group as you earn that harder variation. This can mean bending your knees and tapping your feet down during a full body crunch, overextending your legs out if you can't control that posterior pelvic tilt to avoid your lower back becoming overworked. Or it may mean implementing a different variation of an exercise, like using a resistance band around your heels during a sit-up to remind yourself to push down into the ground and engage your hamstrings as you roll up, so that you feel your abs and not just your hip flexors working. Sometimes you have to change the exact way you're implementing a move to make sure you feel the correct muscles working. But don't just push through using a move someone else said was amazing if you don't feel the correct muscles working. The final bonus tip I wanted to include to help you adjust your ab training to see amazing results was to be conscious of how frequently you're doing core work and when you're including it in your workouts. I find often ab training is used in one of two ways. Either it's done every day for a bazillion reps, or it's done every once in a while as a complete afterthought. Just like you want to design a clear weekly schedule to build results for other muscle groups, you want to do the same for your ab training. Consider including ab exercises 3 to 4 times a week at the end of your sessions, especially if this is a stubborn area for you. Working your abs with isolation exercises at the end of your training is especially key if you're performing heavier lifts earlier on. You don't want your abs fatigued for those heavy compound lifts, or that puts you at greater risk for injury. Also, by doing more frequent sessions over the week, you don't have to go crazy destroying your core each and every time. The volume of work will still add up over the week. This can help you avoid fatiguing your abs so much that your following workouts suffer. You want to get in the greatest volume of quality work that you can to get the best results as fast as possible. Like any stubborn muscle group you want to build and see amazing definition in, you need to create a plan of action and not just randomly add in moves that feel hard. A clear plan so you can create that progression and continually challenge a muscle group is key if you want to see great results. And use that diversity of movement over your workout progressions to your advantage to not only keep things fun, but create that killer defined six-pack. For more tips to help you see that ab definition, especially for the first time, check out the link in the video description. If you like the video, make sure to like it, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe. We're posting new videos each week.